This special presentation was produced in high definition by WEDU, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota.
Tampa Bay has a dynamic female military history, from residents serving in the Women's Army Corps to Major General Margaret Woodward, the first female commander of MacDill Air Force Base. Our area's proud armed forces record is well documented. But what about those who have served but then fallen through the cracks? Women who are struggling to make it in the country they fought to protect. Coming up, the rapidly growing issue of homeless female veterans on Up Close. Welcome to Up Close. I'm Cathy Unruh. This special episode is in conjunction with the national PBS series Women, War, and Peace, which highlights the roles women play in war, military forces, and peacekeeping efforts throughout the world. Women currently make up 20% of the United States Armed Forces, and as many complete their service and return home, they struggle to adjust back to civilian life. There are an estimated 8,000 homeless female veterans in the U.S. today, with an estimated 300 in Hillsborough County alone. Ybor City's Athena House program, run by Tampa Crossroads, serves this rapidly growing population.
Thank you for calling Tampa Crossroads Athena House.
The Athena House is a transitional housing program for homeless female veterans. It's a 16-bed facility, and we have 4 phases to the program. Any issues that they're going through, we help them through, whether it's mental illness, substance abuse, financial problems, trouble finding a job. It's a very therapeutic environment for them. They all support each other, listen to each other, give each other a shoulder to cry on. It's really nice here. Every day is very peaceful, and I think they really find it a home. It's their home.
Joining us today is Sara Romeo, the CEO of Tampa Crossroads. Hi, Sara. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start at the beginning. What was the genesis of Athena House?
I think the genesis for Tampa Crossroads was having programs that we were running in both Hillsborough and Pinellas County, and seeing the general population of the homeless, seeing female veterans come in. I was very transfixed by the concept that a woman could fight for her country and fly helicopters and come back to her community and be on the street, literally homeless, eating out of garbage cans and sleeping in alleys and in emergency shelters. It became so complex to me, just the thought of that happening, that I started researching programs for those women and found out that there were none in the United States that dealt exclusively with the female veterans. There are a lot of programs for homeless veterans, but the majority, 95% or more, were for men. So I thought it would be a great idea for our female heroes to have a place of their own.
Tell me what Tampa Crossroads does. It works with veterans, and then Athena House grew out of that.
Yes. Tampa Crossroads has been in Hillsborough County, operating in Hillsborough County for over 35 years. And what we have done is worked with men and women in our community who are homeless, who are struggling with substance abuse, co-occurring mental health issues.
So as a result of working with that population, you began to zero in on the female veterans.
The female veterans, exactly. In that general population, I started seeing the female veterans, and I just could not understand how this could happen in our country.
And so you set about to change?
So I set about to open a program exclusively for female veterans. I wrote a grant. It was the first federal grant I had ever written, and I was successful in receiving a grant to rehabilitate a facility and open it to house, 24-hour program to house these female veterans.
Who qualifies for the program?
Any female veteran who has been honorably discharged and is currently at risk of homelessness or in an emergency shelter, or actually residing on the streets here in Hillsborough County. Actually, it doesn't have to be just from Hillsborough County. They can be from anywhere.
And do they come to you through Tampa Crossroads, or is the word out there now?
Everybody is referred to our program. We do an assessment. We get referrals from the VA, from the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans Hotline, the hospitals, emergency shelters. Anyone who sees in their population a female veteran really is sort of automatic to call the Athena House, and we schedule an assessment, meet with the woman, and find out if it's something that she wants to do and if this would be appropriate for her.
Why is homelessness such a problem for veterans?
Well, I think we've sort of narrowed it down over the last 3 or 4 years in working with this population. A lot of the women are coming back to their communities. A lot of them have young children and they're coming back home to take care of the kids. There may be some problems in a marriage or a situation with some domestic violence pre and post coming back. There's a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma involved with our soldiers, both men and women. Plus right now in Hillsborough County particularly, we have an extreme lack of affordable housing and a very, very bad economy for jobs. So the transference of military skills to civilian life so that a person could come in and take over the role of parenting again and maintaining a household, there really are so many conditions right now that make that very, very difficult, and some people are falling through that crack.
And women's needs can be very different than men's when they leave the military also.
Well, they're absolutely different. Men and women are different, and it doesn't change once you've served in the military. They still have very unique needs.
Tell us how women are different than men.
Well, I think the women's role in the military, because it is now extended to areas they've never been before, and that's on the battlefield and in the forefront, I think that's caused a great deal of trauma to occur in the women. We see a great number of women, a high percentage of women who are in our programs who join the military sort of to escape a bad situation, maybe domestic violence, and they're just trying to, you know, kind of move on and start a new life. But we know at the end of that military career where they've been very successful and done a great job, that those problems are now coming back to them, exacerbated by the problems that with the trauma of being in the war and on a battlefield itself. There's a very high rate of PTSD with soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan now.
Let's just say post-traumatic stress disorder in case anyone doesn't know that.
Yes, post-traumatic stress disorder, yes. So when the women are coming back now into the community, finding a very difficult job market, finding a very difficult time with housing, now taking back the role of mom to the children or back in the family role, that conversion is not really very smooth. And that's something that we're working with, even, you know, backing up to discharge planning and trying to make that role a little smoother so that women come out, they do have some stability and they don't go into that downward spiral.
And as you know, a couple of the women at Athena House shared their story with us.
Yes, they're wonderful.
The first is Cathy, who grew up in Chicago in a close-knit family. She attended college at USF and entered the ROTC program there, which led her to her interest in the military. She was 22 years old when she joined the Army.
Well, when I joined, it was in 1979, and it was just, they had just incorporated the women and the men together. And it was a very, very interesting time because it took most of the men that were in charge of us were from Vietnam, and they didn't know how to deal with women and men together. So it took them a little while for them to get used to us.
Cathy was part of the first wave of women integrated with men in the U.S. Army. Women were not allowed to serve in combat roles, and many trained to be cooks or drivers.
When I graduated from basic training, went to AIT, I was in the, it was 64 Charlie, which was a driver. And graduating from AIT, I got an assignment to drive for protocol, a general. So my secondary was military intelligence. And I drove for a general for 10 years.
Cathy took tremendous pride in her role as a driver to General Odom, and her career in the Army took her all over the world.
It was wonderful. I went to everywhere. It was, I went to places that I didn't think that I could go to. I served at the Pentagon. I went to the White House often because he was in the Joint Chief of Staff. I went to the Netherlands. NATO, I was in NATO, went to Belgium. Every place that normal soldiers didn't go, I would go.
Cathy injured her knee in the service and she got out on a medical discharge. She worked in retail and civilian jobs until her knee required surgery. It was a permanent disability, and Cathy struggled with her circumstances. Then she was referred to the Athena House by the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital.
This is a godsend for women veterans. You're able to do things here that you wouldn't be able to do if you had, a regular job. You can, get yourself together and recuperate.
During her year in the Athena program, Cathy has been able to sign up for medical benefits and get back on her feet again.
Being here, I was able to work on getting benefits, because working on getting benefits is almost like working to get a job. You have to continuously be on top of them, calling, going to the benefits office to make sure that it's not at the bottom of the pile.
In addition to the veterans' resources she has found in the program, Cathy benefits from the structure of her days.
We have cleanup. Everybody has a detail or chore to do. We clean, make sure our house is clean. We cook for ourselves. During the day, we either go to the VA or go to volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I volunteer at 2 different places. There's they call it VEN, which is a Veterans Employment Network. You go there and they have counseling. They help you get a job. People go there to use the computers. They go to the library to use the computers. They go to James A. Haley. Everything is trying to improve yourselves to get better.
Cathy believes the general public often may not realize just how difficult it can be for veterans to adjust back to civilian life.
I don't think that the country understands that when you get out of the military, that it's different and it's hard. Because we have been taught a certain way to live, and it's an adjustment that society doesn't want to, either they don't understand or they don't want to understand.
With the help of Athena House, Cathy has regrouped and is saving money to eventually buy a house of her own. She's happy as she contemplates her future goals.
To stay stable, to volunteer at places like this, to help other veterans as much as I possibly can, because we need all the help we can get, and just be a productive citizen.
Cathy talks about the structure of Athena House as though it's very important to her. Do you design the programs to replicate the military experience?
No, we did not. We designed the programs to replicate other treatment programs and programs that are commonly known as residential treatment facilities. We know that structure is important to anyone who has that lack of stable housing and income. So we've designed things so that the women are very, very comfortable and very structured. It's not a country club, I like to tell them. As Cathy said, they do their own cooking, they do their own cleaning. It's their home. They share in the chores and they share in everything that occurs in the house. We really designed this program to be very attentive to strengthening their ability to move back into the community very carefully and very safely. And every single woman is different, whether that has to do with assisting them to get the benefits that they're due. We have quite a number of women who've come into our program with serious health concerns that have had surgery and then needed time to rehabilitate.
And you say it's modeled after other residential programs. Mm-hmm. Lots of residential programs limit your time, days, weeks, months. But I believe you can stay at the Athena House for up to 2 years?
Up to 24 months, which is really fantastic because you don't have to be in this extreme rush. A lot of programs, some programs limit you to 60 days, which in many cases is not enough. When you've got long-term problems, health problems, mental health problems, maybe substance abuse, alcoholism, these things require time to sort of change that behavior and to get a person stable. Even something very simple like applying for benefits can take up to 1.5 years just to get benefits.
And if you're ready to get out earlier, obviously you can.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Are there any cons to the 2-year stay? Any sense of, well, I have 2 years to get this done, to be ready to return?
I really think that it's a wonderful amount of time. We haven't had anyone who stayed 2 years. I think the longest time has been about 18 months. But to know that you don't have to rush, to know that you can stay there peacefully and be in a safe environment for as long as you need, we don't really see any negativity about that at all. In fact, we think it's wonderful that it does give the women all their own particular time. And again, we've had women that have come in 2 months and said, oh man, that's great, I got my benefits, I'm ready, I've got an apartment, and thank you.
So we spoke with Carmen, who's a newer resident of the
Yes.
house, and she's been there for about 6 weeks. She grew up in New Jersey in a large family, and her father was retired Army. In 1984, she followed in her dad's footsteps and enlisted in the Army when she was 23 years old.
It was just a change for me. It was a time in my life where I needed to do something. I was young and just needed to do something that was more meaningful.
Carmen attended basic training in Fort Dixon, New Jersey.
When I went through basic training, it was all a female company, but it was just one company out of several that was female. The majority of the post had mostly males going through basic training.
At that time in the Army, during the mid-1980s, the relatively recent integration of female soldiers was still an adjustment for some men in the service.
There were times, though, that certain NCOs, like out at the range or the grenade range or something like that, they would make certain comments that were not acceptable, put it that way.
There was a close camaraderie among the women in Carmen's company.
We were all thrown into basic training together, and we needed each other, and we knew that we had to learn teamwork, because that's what it's really all about. But at the same time, we knew we had to protect each other because we were women. It was kind of like the unspoken code.
But after graduating from basic training, Carmen experienced military sexual trauma.
The CQ on my very first night at my first permanent duty station, he was getting ready to leave the military. I woke up in the middle of the night with him present in my room.
Carmen did not tell anyone about what happened to her during that time.
No. It's still male-dominated. No, you don't discuss those things.
Carmen resolved to move on and focus on medic training.
Yeah, I went to my school in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And it was amazing. I loved it. I loved doing what I was doing. And I excelled at it. It was much more laid back as far as you know, the innuendos and things like that. It really didn't come into play. It was also all female. Our barracks were all female.
Carmen worked as a medic for the remainder of her time in the Army.
Providing field support. You know, a couple of us would take an ambulance and support artillery while they were doing their trainings. The MPs while they were doing their trainings, infantry, things like that. We provided medical support, plus I worked in the hospital in Darnell Army Hospital and also the hospital in Fort Carson.
After 3 years of service, Carmen left the Army when she got married and started a family. As a civilian, she worked in the mental health field and raised her children. When her marriage dissolved, she moved in with her parents in New Jersey.
I was living with my parents when my mother got ill, and after she passed away, the grieving process was very difficult for me. And I had lost my job, and I needed medical benefits, so I checked into the VA, and I found out that I was eligible for it, and that's what started the whole ball rolling.
Carmen struggled as she dealt with many issues in New Jersey, and she decided to relocate.
I came to Florida to live, be closer to my 2 children that live down here. But economic situations as they are led me to be homeless. You don't want to rely on your kids when you're this old, for lack of a better term. And I called the toll-free numbers, was referred to the Tampa VA, because that was my nearest vet center, and they're the ones who referred me to Athena House. And it just turned out that it was exactly what I needed and didn't even know.
For the first time, Carmen has been able to talk about the military sexual trauma, or MST, that she experienced while in the Army.
I started to see a psychologist, and they interview you first. There's a nurse that asks you many, many questions. And one of their questions is, did you experience any MST? And I was like, oh my God, yes, I did. And that was it. Someone just had to ask me the question. But no one knows to ask you unless they understand that it's military, and the VA does. So they have that as a routine question for all females.
Carmen believes that the military could do better to meet the needs of those who serve it, both women and men.
I think that we need to have more of a support system within the military for women and their special needs, for men and their special needs. I think there needs to be there needs to be an atmosphere where you're not afraid to speak up and say, this is what's going on, this is what's happened, where you're not judged by it.
As she continues to move forward, Carmen is returning to the medical field that she pursued in the Army.
Well, I'm starting school, and I'm planning to be working, I'm going back to my first love, which is the medical profession, the actual medical profession. And the first phase is to become a patient care technician. And after that, I'll get my RN degree. That's the goal.
Now, a certain percentage of men obviously suffer military sexual trauma, as we heard Carmen talk about, though it is a bigger problem for women, or so it seems. And women are very reluctant to talk about it, like Carmen, while they're in the forces. What's the result of that secrecy and keeping that in when they get back home?
Well, that is part of the trauma that they face, along with the PTSD. About 80% or higher of the women that have been through our program have suffered from MST, which is military sexual trauma. And we know that coming back, as Carmen said, later all this comes back to you and is very fresh in your mind, and then you really feel the indignation of that happening to you with your own, sort of your own company or your own people perpetrating that. It is a huge issue for many of the several thousand homeless female veterans that are on the streets today. It is a huge issue.
So along with just trying to get yourself situated with a job and benefits and everything else, there's so much psychological and emotional baggage that you're dealing with.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I'm so happy we have a period of time for the women to be safe and stable and to get all that assistance, to get the counseling they need, to get whatever it is that they need.
But a lot of the people that we've heard from didn't even know that these services such as the Athena House existed. How do they find out about this? How do you make it better known that these services are available?
We constantly try to let our services be known to all of the people who may come in contact with these women. But particularly, we're very proud to say that the Athena House through Tampa Crossroads is a national model for serving these women. I have personally gone to Washington, been invited to speak twice in Washington to the needs of the women that are the homeless female veterans and the particular special needs that they have. So we are really just constantly making sure that people who are in this type of arena and in the emergency shelters, in the homes, in the VA, on the national hotline, that our name is out there and that they know there is a place they can get help. Even if a woman needs assistance and doesn't particularly want to come to Athena House because of the structure. Some female veterans won't come in because they have pets. So we always try to find a place for them to be safe. It is our goal, even if they don't come into our program, to make sure we get them off the street and get them safe.
And yet we know that many veterans do go without their benefits.
Absolutely. It's very curious to me. We did a focus group with veterans about 3 months ago, and nationally, female veterans do not associate themselves as being a veteran. Females who have served in the military and been honorably discharged do not affiliate or associate themselves as being veterans. They think of veterans as men with guns. So it's also an education process on the female side that we let them know that they did serve and they are as eligible as anyone who's ever served in the armed forces for our country.
You have to feel really good as you listen to stories like we just heard from Carmen and Cathy, and you see the women moving down the path to self-sufficiency.
I love them. They really are my sheroes. I could not sleep for almost 3 months thinking about how this could happen. And when the Athena House opened, I was really pretty much speechless, which is an odd thing for me, but it's really so rewarding to know that not only have we helped the female veterans in our community here, but this is something that has spread across our nation. I believe now there are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a dozen homes opening or already open specifically for the female veterans.
Did you decide upon the name?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Because Athena, obviously, the goddess of war.
War, wisdom, and the arts.
Well, congratulations to you on starting the program and for the good work it's doing.
Thank you. Thanks for letting the public know what we're doing, Cathy.
Thanks for being here. Right. For more information about Athena House, you can call 813-238-8557 or visit tampacrossroads.com. For other veteran services, contact the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital at 888-811-0107 or go online to tampa.va.gov. This episode of Up Close is available to view in its entirety online at wedu.org. Thanks for watching. I'm Cathy Unruh, and I'll see you next time on Up Close.